All right, folks, so I just plopped it in there. I didn't plug it in yet because this thing has some major issues on the back that I'm gonna have to go through. So, you know, on playfields like this, you have lights, switches, and solenoids. So that's the things that you have to look at. A lot of the solenoids are burnt up. Like, see, that one is the plunger is stuck in it, and it's just hanging off the back of the playfield. There's another one hanging. Here's another one hanging that's burnt up. This one was hanging. I kind of popped it back in place. This one, the wiring has been hacked. That solenoid was hanging. I popped it back in place. The flipper, bunch of the stuff's missing off that flipper assembly. So a lot of the solenoids have issues, right? And then the switches, a lot of the switches are bent out of place. And then, so here's something cut. I don't even know what that goes to. And then a lot of the lights are bent out of place. So you can see this light support is all busted up. So it's a real shame that it's like that, because this one, that was the one that was in it, is actually in really nice shape on the bottom of the playfield. But the top of the playfield, as you saw, is ruined. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to carefully go through all of the light sockets on this one, and whenever I find one that's messed up, if I can't fix it, rob it off of this one. This one's so worn that that playfield's never going to go back in a game again. You know, somebody I guess could put an overlay on it, but since I'm basically missing a whole bunch of stuff in decent shape on this one, I'm going to have to steal it off of this one. So I'm going to have to go through all the light bulb sockets and get all of them in good shape. And then I'm going to have to go through all of the switches and adjust them and make sure everything's good. And then I'm going to have to go through each solenoid, and the ones that over here that are messed up, steal them off of this one. And you know, the playfield on this one's in much better shape. Now you can see basically what was going on was they were taking everything off the top of the playfield. So because they were doing that, a bunch of the stuff on the back is just hanging because they had unbolted like pop bumper stuff and things like that. So I wish it was in that nice a shape as it sits there, but you know, this playfield here has been removed from a machine at one time too, so one man's junk is another man's treasure, so we're going to have to work through it. I'll set it up and we'll do a little bit of time-lapse stuff as I work through some of this stuff. I'll put the tripod here where you can see some time-lapse stuff, or not, I call it time-lapse, but we'll speed up the footage so you don't have to boringly sit through us working through every little part of it. But I'll put the camera on it and we'll work on it a little bit, and you can tell me afterwards in the comments below what you think. But I think I'll just go ahead now and devote the time to getting the bottom of the playfield all correct, where I don't have to worry about anything shorting out or being in the wrong spot. Get my light bulbs replaced and all of that, and try to get all of this in decent enough shape where we can at least lay the playfield down and not have to worry about all of the stuff that's hanging off the bottom of it shorting into something else. And then on the top, we can finally start cleaning and taking all the stuff off of it and seeing what kind of shape we can get that in. So we'll speed through a little bit of this for you. Alright folks, so we got most of the under the playfield stuff done, at least to the point where we can turn it on. So we were just trying to get it, you saw the condition the thing was in, we were just trying to get it where we had went over everything and checked all of the wiring and made sure that it was safe to plug in, because it was in pretty rough shape. But as you just saw, it looks like we touched about everything on it. Here's some of the parts that we took off. So I'll go through it. Basically we did all of the lights, you know, and so you might have saw I was using a little file. We've got these files that don't have much grit to them. They're not much of a file. You don't want anything aggressive where you're going to screw up the points on the things, because you really just want to, on the switches, because you really just want to clean them. So you don't want anything that's actually going to scrape away part of the point. You just want something, even like a business card or something, to work. But you saw I was also trying to clean the inside of the sockets a little bit, just to make sure that the bulbs are making good contact. And that's why I went through every bulb all over the playfield and changed it and cleaned the socket out. On stuff like this, see how this wire is touching the metal? That's not a problem. If that was going to be a problem, they would have insulated that wire, but that's not a problem, because basically on some of them they even did it like that, where they ran the power through the metal strip. So if that touches, that won't do anything. But you know, we checked every wire on everything as we went up, and then we got up here to the coils, and they were all screwed up. You might have saw that. The pop bumpers still aren't on the top of the playfield, so this is just the actual coil part, and they wouldn't pull in and everything else. And so you can see the pieces of them laying over there that were all stuck together. So we took those off of the other playfield. You can see they are now missing. And remember, this playfield is so screwed up that it's just going to be wall art. And that one we're working on is in a lot better shape, on the top at least. So now we've got it in pretty good shape on the bottom. And then we have these two. These aren't all the way there yet. I need to oil them a little bit so that they pivot a little better. So I'm going to put some 3-in-1 oil on that. But they're at least working good enough right now where we can test the game with them. And then moving up to here, this switch is for the spinner. So the spinner's not on the top, so it's not hooked up. If you look over here on this one, this is a gate that's the same kind of setup, and it is still hooked up on the top. About half the stuff's gone off the top of the Playfield. And then this was the drop target assembly. So I was messing with that. Got it working pretty good. But again, we swapped it off of the other Playfield. I don't know what I did with the other part of that. And then I think we had to wire up the switch. Got some people coming in. How y'all doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good. And then we did the rest of the bulbs up through here. This was all jammed up too, so the same thing. We had to get it moving right. This one, not only was the part that kicks, these are the kickers, not only was the part that kicked missing the plunger, which you could replace just the plunger, but we had a good one on the other Playfield, so we swapped the whole thing. But also the coil and the coil bracket was off of this one, so we pulled it off the other board. And then this support thing was completely missing, so we took it off the other board. You can see we got it on there sturdy. Now the screws had been ripped out of the Playfield at some point, so we had to put a little bit thicker screws in it to get it to where it holds on good. And then the flippers up here had all kinds of problems. These are the bases that were on there, and they had screwed up the holes at the end. They had put oversized screws in them and things like that. So we took the bases off of the other Playfield, and then we put new bushings in them, which are these, which is the part that goes through the Playfield. And then we put new end of stroke switches on them, at least the high voltage part. The part that is just the low voltage part is that you usually don't have to replace it. So we put those on, and then we had to wire them up. And then the one coil was probably still working, but this sleeve inside of it I couldn't replace, and you really need to replace those, at least on the flippers, whenever you do it. So since I couldn't get that one out, I had to replace the coil. So we took a coil off the other one and put a new sleeve in it, and then that one over there, I was able to get the sleeve out and put a new one in it. The reason you do that is so that the plunger can go in and out of it without any friction. And then we rewired it up. And we had one of these screws up here was broke, so I had to go get a screw off a parts board. I'll have to take these back off actually, because I don't think you can get the plunger in there without taking those off. So here's the 3 of the plungers that were on the board. I think one of them was missing, but I'm going to order new. The pawl was probably still fine, but I'm going to order new plunger links, because if there's any play in them, watch this link right here. See that play in it? If there's play in it like that, it makes the flipper weak. I mean, the flipper weak. See, that one's really bad. So whenever you hit the button and it pulls it in, you got that much slop in it and makes them weak. So we'll get new ones for that and put them in there, but I think I'll have to take the coil back out before I do that. But so by doing all that, now we can plug it in without any kind of fear of anything shorting together or burning something up. So I'll open the back box and we'll lay this down and plug it back in, and then we'll see if it's ready to go.
That's all for now. Join us next week as we work through the top side of the Playfield. Will we get there? This picture says we will. Leave your comments below and give us a thumbs up, because damn it, we deserve it.